Hey, I'm going to do a short live since I got everybody's feathers all ruffled up today, worrying about what was going on. I have a little bit of daylight left, so let me tag a few people here, and we'll talk about that. And then I'll just give you an update on a few things because I just haven't done a live for a long time, and I've had a couple results in cases that have been just kind of frightening as far as parents' rights go, and I'm really just about ready to say that families have no constitutional rights anymore. I mean, you can just pretty well just check it up and forget it. It isn't going to happen. You're not going to have rights in federal court, and I just don't even know what else to tell you about it. You just don't. So I'm tagging a few people, and I saw a post that on my regular homepage. A lot of you saw this morning. I put a post about state troopers being outside my house, which was so odd. And okay, that's all I'm going to invite. Maybe you can pass it around a little bit. So I got up this morning. I usually get up between 6:30 and 7. Very, very odd that as I was walking through the house this morning, I looked out the front and there was a state trooper's car. You saw the post I put. And I mean, I live in like suburbia, USA. I mean, there is not a city, around here. And state troopers in the state of Tennessee are basically highway patrol. They're not really an investigative agency. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation does investigations for kind of across judicial borders, crimes kinds of things. So, excuse me. So I saw that state trooper sitting out here, and he just stopped right in front of my house, right at the corner. And I live on a corner, so you can go like around the corner and you're still by my house and you can still see into my yard. But he stopped just right over there, and then I just sat and watched him. And here I am, I'm like all in my house coat and jammies and bed head and socks. and that's why when I took the picture, I just kind of zoomed in on it. And then in just a few minutes, a state trooper came from the other direction, and they stopped in front of my house and were chit-chatting with each other. And so had I not looked really bad because of being just out of bed, I would have walked right out there to find out what was going on. But I just took a little picture of it and then just watched him for a while and left. So I don't know what's going on. It's just very odd, very odd. I have a couple things going on. I can't really give you a whole lot of details about some of them. I don't know that it would really put me in the question mark, but I have one case where I have a client who had cocaine planted on them, and that's kind of all the details I can give you on that, except that we found out about it. We know it was planted. There's a whole lot more details to support it. I can't tell you about it. I can tell you it got an investigation started, and we thought it was going to be an all gung-ho investigation, and oddly some things have kind of like fell apart. So I'm really wondering what's going on there. I wish I could tell you more, but I can't really tell you more about that. The other thing is in Wendy's case, we got a dismissal in the district court, and I filed an appeal on that. And I've spoken out about that a few times, but we really have since gotten evidence to show what a gang of drug dealers they have going on down there, and how they just let kids deal drugs and hide it. And I mean, even when the DCS attorneys or DCS's workers kid is buying and selling, or at least buying drugs, and they just hide it all, that really should be questioned. That really should be challenged. So I've kind of put some push on that as well. And but they, and in her dismissal, the district court judge called me out by name. Yeah, called me out by name, basically impugning me for representing parents in federal court. And it's really odd because, by representing parents in federal court, I'm the attorney in the Sixth Circuit that got the Sixth Circuit to finally recognize that the Fourth Amendment applies to social workers way back in 2012. And now I'm trying to show that, you can't have invalid ex parte orders. You can't use juvenile court orders as adjudication that have been overturned. And they're calling me out by name and saying the case is dismissed and I shouldn't be filing these things, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it's pretty serious. That's really serious. I mean, you don't do that. Judges don't do that. They don't call the attorney out by name. In a situation like that, they just say, well, plaintiff's counsel misunderstood or mischaracterizes the law or misapprehends the conclusions. They never go like, Connie Reguli, right? So, yes, that's what I'm facing. And then so what'll happen is I'll file a appeal to the Sixth Circuit. Unfortunately, everybody was defendants there. They've all made a big scuttlebutt about that, but unfortunately, all the defendants in that case just did whacked out stuff, and then they all stood behind each other. They hid evidence, they scooted off to another county, they got a secret order, they secreted where kids were, they gave vaccines when they weren't authorized. I mean, it goes, hid evidence about disruptions of the kids when they were in foster care. It goes on and on and on and on. It's horrible. And just the horrible destruction that they do is just disgusting. It's just disgusting. So, so anyway, I'm going to appeal that, and I've already kind of outlined some of the issues. It's really hard because I'm limited to like 13,000 words in an appeal to the Sixth Circuit, and you probably think, oh, that's plenty of words. You ought to be able to handle it with that, but it's really not when I start writing, because I basically have this theory on briefing that if it ain't 100 pages, it ain't worth it. So, but that's going to take me a while to get that narrowed down. So anyway, I am so sorry I made that post this morning and then put everybody into a panic, because I had to go right to the office and do a trial by Zoom, and was tied up all day sitting in front of a computer with this is the first time we've done one by Zoom. It's a little odd, it's a little funny, and I mean, part of it that's kind of like weird to me, like almost like a weird movie, is that, you know, on Zoom, you're just like right there, right? Your face is like right there. Well, in a courtroom, especially in the courtrooms in Williamson County, your judge is like probably 20 feet away from you, probably maybe 15, but a substantial distance away. And so, of course, when you're on Zoom, you're just like face to face, right? And so you like, and I, you know, and sometimes when I'm doing a trial, and I'm sitting there at the counsel table and I'm just like frustrated or whatever, I can sort of like squeeze behind the podium table so that I'm not visible, and just kind of put my head down and just like shake my head, or I don't know, just go, you know, whatever. I can just smack myself in the face. But, you know, when you're sitting there on Zoom, you can't do those things, like, you know, or you can't hide back there and like scratch your ear or like pick your nose or whatever. So it's kind of weird to be on Zoom. But we did it, and we did it successfully. But it was a challenge. But I don't know, it was one that was mostly dealing with financial documents and finances, so I don't know that I could really do a serious case like that, so we'll see. But anyway, Tennessee is still on a lockdown, and the Tennessee Supreme Court issued an order that each of the judicial districts, which a judicial district can be from 1 to 4 counties, but each judicial district must come up a plan for safety and not do in-person hearings until they have that safety plan in place. So I don't know what's going on, y'all. I made masks this weekend. I showed y'all me sitting in my sewing machine, cutting and sewing, and got a pattern off of YouTube, of course. So we have some cute little masks for adults and families with sharks and pineapples and Shopkins and princes and Disney princess, etc. All right, so I had another case. So I've got another challenge that's will actually end up in both the State Court of Appeals as well as the Sixth Circuit District Court, where I'm really challenging the state's ability to do investigation orders, especially where a parent is a non-offending parent, so that they cannot order a parent to comply with an investigation if there's no allegations of abuse against that parent. This is going to be huge. They are going to like hate having to rule on this. Do you understand? Because they pop out these investigation orders ex parte without even a hearing to force parents to produce kids and to cooperate with their investigation. And I'm like, I'm challenging that. So I'm taking that before the State Court of Appeals. Going to be very interesting. Yeah, well, they'll find some way to wiggle out of it, just so you know. I challenge the constitutionality as applied. So for those of you who are legal novices, let me explain this to you. So there's a constitutional challenge. 2 postcards, yeah. Mother sent 2 also. Okay, yeah, if I sent you postcards, please mail us postcards. I sometimes do 10 a day, and I do need a few more people to write postcards, Trump postcards. So if you'll do it, I'll send you 5, 6, 7, and you all need to get them written, and you just sit down when you have a cup of coffee in the morning, and you write them out, and you say, Dear President Trump, please save our children, follow Family Forward Project on Facebook, get our children home, stop forced adoption, stop ask for money, etc. You need to be sending them daily. Like I said, I'll send sometimes 10 a day that I get written. All right, now, always do that, get diverted, and then I forget where I am. Oh, I know where I was. I was talking about investigation orders. So they have a law in the Tennessee statute, and it's never been challenged on a constitutional basis, but it says that if DCS starts an investigation and the parent does not cooperate with the investigation, that DCS can get an order from the court. Now, in this case, they did an ex parte order. It does not say they can get an ex parte order in the statute, but that they can get an order of the court to force the parent to produce the child for a forensic interview without the parent present. And and I say that's unconstitutional if the child is in the care of a non-offending parent and they don't want to cooperate. So we're going to see where that's going to go. Yeah, a lot of these laws have never been challenged. So I'll also tell you about, I spent 3 hours, oh my gosh, 3 hours on the phone with an expert witness. All you medical kidnap people out there, I'd already spent an hour with him on the phone and provided him all kinds of documentation. I spent 3 hours on the phone with this medical expert. He did an awesome report. He went through every medical record. He made all these detailed, and we are going against Vanderbilt again. Okay, Vanderbilt, broken ribs. I'm telling you, they are going crazy over these broken ribs. We have got to bust that freaking bubble big time. In this case, I'm going to tell you what I saw. Okay, so I'm not a doctor. All you medical people out there, fill in the blanks if you need to. There are x-rays, right? We all know what an x-ray is. They do an x-ray of your body. You see a little white thing that is your bone, right? There is CAT scans, there's MRI, there's sonograms, etc. So there's an imaging, and if I get this wrong, somebody correct me, but there's an imaging, and I believe it's the CAT scan. I believe it's a little bit different than an x-ray. It actually shows you, it's very unique, I mean, it's very interesting. It actually shows you a picture of the bones, not just an x-ray where you see darkness and then you see kind of a white thing, and then fractures are seen like a little dark line or a little bump or something. This shows you the bone, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask the mom in this case for permission to actually show you this picture, okay? This is a baby who was born prematurely, and he was born a little over 2 months. He was born at 31 weeks, over 2 months premature, and at 7 months old, which made him basically gestationally a 5-month-old, he had all these rib fractures that Vanderbilt says that the parents crushed him, right? And they've already gotten one bad ruling, and so we're appealing part of that ruling. But at 4 months old, which is gestationally 2 months old, the baby went to the doctor because the baby had some problems with the shape of its head, had some subdural hematomas, and they did a CAT scan. And it's this picture of his head. And in the back of his skull are holes in his head. Holes. I mean, holes. And you can flat see them. There is no question. Like I said, I'm going to ask the mom for permission to show you this picture so that you can see that this baby had holes in his head. All right. You can also see, if you move the image, that the baby has, you can see the top 3 ribs. And in the top 3 ribs, you can see like 6 fractures where the bones are just all weak. Okay. Then they did the CAT scan again in January, and all those places where the holes were in his head, you can still see that it's healing, because you can still see like depressions in his skull. I mean, and you're going to see this and you're going to go, oh my gosh, that poor little baby, right? The Vanderbilt doctor, child abuse specialist, said in her testimony the child's bones were perfectly healthy. The child's bones were perfectly healthy. It could not have been a metabolic bone disorder as to why his ribs would incidentally fracture. And you can even say, you can even look at the x-ray, and you can even tell as a lay person, you look at these x-ray and these poor little baby's ribs, which you got to remember, like, see between my 2 fingernails right there? Hang on here. See, like between my 2 fingernails, right? If you do that, that's about, no, right there, like 0.5 centimeters or something. The medical doctor says it much more clearer than I do. But that's like how big these babies are. These babies' ribs are like that big, okay? But even with that, when you look at the x-ray, you can see these ribs like twisted and not even evenly formed. And Dr. Verena Brown goes like, oh, it could not be metabolic bone disease because these bones were perfectly healthy. Yep, that's what she said. So, yay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining. So I just wanted to give you a catch up and let you know I was not in jail. I didn't get taken off by the state police today. So back to my story. So I talked to this expert who's great, who pulled off all these CAT scans, made images of them, sent me images, made images of these ribs. Now, I want you to keep in mind that during the other trial they had on this case, no one, not one single attorney, and keep in mind there are 4 different attorneys in this case. There's a DCS attorney, there's a guardian ad litem, there's mother's attorney, there's dad's attorney. Not one single attorney put those images up in front of the judge to look at. Just to look at those images, because if you look at those images, even a layperson has to go, there is something wrong with those bones. It does not take a medical expert to look at those bones and say there's a problem here. Yeah. And I have got to wonder, I mean, somehow we have got to get down to biomedical ethics and talk about what the ethics are of these child abuse experts just being such vigilantes and talking about these parents crushing these babies when they haven't even looked at the evidence, and they're not radiologists and they're not experts. So I spent 3 hours doing that. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. So let me see if there's anything else I need to catch you up on. Keep posting these horrible stories about foster care and everything on Family Forward. We have got to keep telling that story. Foster care is not the answer. It's not working. We've been at it 40 years. It's a social experiment that failed. We got to fix it. Kids are missing. I had a conversation today with Brian in Ohio, long conversation about a story about 10 kids that have actually just like vanished. Nobody wants to account for where they are. Nobody wants to talk about where they are. I have, of course, Whitney's case up in East Tennessee. I have 4 full-blood siblings in 3 homes. 4 full-blood siblings in 3 homes. That's horrible. And the guardian ad litem doesn't even stand up against that and say, you know, we would like to keep these kids together as siblings. The guardian ad litem won't even stand up and say that. So that's a challenge. Oh my gosh. All right, so let me see. Couple things that, you know, I have some really interesting cases. I just can't really get into the facts, at least until we get over some major humps in them. Almost everybody that comes in and talks to me, when I talk to them about their cases, I ask them specifically if they would go public or not public. And, they tell me. And if they, and sometimes I decide, sometimes I say, we're not going to say anything until this is over, and then you can say something, because a lot of people want to go public. Oh yeah, let me tell you about this case. So I had another case come in. So sad. Oh my gosh, so sad. Had a case with a disabled child who is autistic, and they took this child away from his parents and put him in foster care, and basically told the parents the reason they were putting him in foster care is because his disability. They could get him more services. Of course, they did not get him more services, and they did a Rogan's podcast, Go Wider Public Eyes. I think that's a great idea, Elizabeth. Yeah, let's talk to them about it. Let's try to get something going. I talked to somebody today, and I'm like, maybe I just need to quit law and just like full YouTube it, right? I mean, I would love to just interview people who've gone through this crap online and get these stories real clear and out there real clear. Because, we've got to be telling the tale, and I'm so limited in just the time, in so many cases, I have to be careful. I mean, there's so much I go through that you guys don't even see, you don't even know. So, yeah, I'd love to talk to him about it. So anyway, let me get to this other case. Oh, so sad. And the parents were of another nationality, and the mother had very limited English skills. And they put this poor child who can barely, actually he's nonverbal. He's full nonverbal. But he had acted out of school. Well, hello, he's autistic. He was in a terrible school system who wasn't providing any support for him. And then, he acted out and got abused in a foster home. And so they moved him to another foster home. And then there's real questions as to whether or not he was abused there. But here's the problem. And I had a long talk with the dad. I said, this is so sad for me to have to tell you this, but your son won't make a good witness for me. Your son will never be able to explain what happened. And never. I mean, I have cases kids who are traumatized when they come out of foster care, but in this poor case, we can never rehabilitate him to tell the story of what happened. And the records, of course, that DCS keeps are incomplete and not consistent. So, it's tragic, though. I mean, DCS haunted this family for about 3.5 years before they took the kid. And, the neighbors would call, or maybe he'd get out in the yard, and, he would start to elope. And that's unfortunately what kids do. But that's not a reason to put an autistic child in foster care because of an elopement issue. So Dad was working his heck out, he was just working to death and supporting his family. And DCS gets involved, and he loses his business, loses his income, and, works to try to, and his wife doesn't speak any English, and DCS is, haunting her. So it's horrible, tragedy. And then they just turn around and give him his kid back, like after 9 months, almost 10 months. Turn around and give the kid back. Yeah, well, we all know why. We know why because we know it has to do with the funding, right? Oh, good for overwhelm. I suggest blogging for anyone who needs, that would overwhelm. Yeah, so I don't know. I will say, Elizabeth, I did a little radio show for a while through Blog Talk Radio, and I was doing it on Monday nights, and gosh, I did this 3-4 years ago now. But I really enjoyed it, and I would take 1 or 2 stories a night, and I think 1 per hour because I did 2 hours. And I would talk to them ahead of time, and I would say, look, I know your story is overwhelming. I'm going to direct you into questions, and please answer my questions. And just remember, I'll fill in and ask you some additional questions. So it's kind of hard sometimes for people to wrap their head around that story, but because I know the law, I was able to kind of guide them and direct them and go through what happened and then explain it to people and explain to people. I was able to use every case to explain to people something that they might do or be aware of. So it actually worked out really well. The biggest problem I had was timing. Excuse me. Okay, now there's like an odd white van sitting over here. He's just sitting here. I'm going to show you. See that? Yeah, did y'all see that? Did you see that? Did y'all see that? Did you see that? That odd little white vanny thing sitting right there, because I live on a corner at the Four Quarters, just sitting there until I turned around and put the video on him, and then he sped away up the street. This is like so creepy. This is so creepy. I don't know why they'd want to watch me. Who knows? Yes, I do. There's a few other things I just like can't even open my mouth about. Ugh, it's so hard not to tell you some things that I've stirred up lately. Okay, so back to my radio thing. So I would do a story per hour, and we'd kind of spend the first 20 minutes just letting the person kind of explain their story the best they could. Then we spend about 20 minutes with me kind of asking them directed questions to fill in the blanks. And then we spend the last 20 minutes really just kind of breaking it down from a legal perspective, what they might be able to do in the future, etc., who they might be able to contact. So I was doing it on Monday evenings, and sometimes I'd get tied up, and that's part of the problem. I mean, I'm at the mercy of court schedules. You all have to understand that. I mean, if I'm in court like today, I was glad he did, but you know, the judge went till 5:30 on Zoom, and we were there from 9 to 5:30, and it was a long, full day. But I mean, I'm glad he did, but I never know if I'm going to be finished at 4, 5:30. I've had judges go as late as like 6:30, or I might be in another county. I might be an hour away, and a judge goes till 5:30 or 6, and then I have another hour to drive home. So scheduling has been the most difficult time for me. That's why, unfortunately, excuse me, even with my Family Forward lives, I just have to do it at odd times. And I'm so sorry. Y'all just have to watch for. And I usually do post these. What I will do is after I do this video, I will download it and then I upload it to YouTube. And so if you happen afraid you're going to miss a live or miss hearing something, if you go to YouTube and find my channel with my name on it, and you like it and you hit a notification on it, what'll happen is when I upload this one then to YouTube, then you will get notified if you've missed it on the Facebook Live. Okay, is that a deal? You got that? All right. Okay, so thank you, Jen. Thank you, Sarah. Oh yeah, let me tell you, I'll just say this real short. Okay, I'm not going to put your name on the case, but let me just tell you what else. So, I have a client in East Tennessee who can identify themselves if they want to, who we spent, how many days? 3 days in trial in December. Was it 2 days or 3 days in trial in December? And the last day of the trial was December the 20th, Friday. Christmas was the following Tuesday. The judge said, why don't you write the order, Miss Brett? No, the judge says, who will write the order? And I said, I will, right? Because I knew I would get it done. Monday, December the 23rd, Monday, December the 23rd, I got my audio out, I got my booty behind that computer and typed out, I don't know, 12-page order, sent it to every attorney because the judge got all cranky with me, thinking I had submitted an order without approval. Wasn't me who did it. It was another attorney. Judge says, make sure it goes to every attorney. I'm like, I will. December 23rd, which is a Monday, I circulated that order. One particular attorney took weeks to get back with me. Weeks. And then GAL says being goes to their communities. And then after they got back to me weeks later, they said they didn't agree with it. They were going to write their own order. And then they sent me an order. They changed most of it or a lot of it. And so I sent it to the court to ask the court to enter it, and the court doesn't enter it. And then I get a message from the court that they're going to just pick an order and sign it. And I sent the transcript. I said, okay, here's a transcript. Here's my order. You need to sign an order. Okay, so we are now April the 27th. April 27th. We do not have an order entered from December 20th. December 20th. Here we are. And do you think there's any confusion? And then the court gets upset because the parents are confused about what they're supposed to do? Yeah, well, I did my job. Yeah. All right, you're right. What a jerk. 4 months later, here we are. And all that money, all that time, all that testimony elicited. And he cut us off in the middle of the trial and rescheduled it for April, which of course didn't get heard, right? So here we are. We're in the middle of a trial. It's not that we haven't been able to start a trial. We're in the middle of a trial. In the middle of a trial. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I don't like this to be too long. Otherwise, I can't get it uploaded to YouTube. So I'm going to say goodnight. I'm safe. I'm going to get up early in the morning. I'm going to check outside my window. See if there's any creepy cars around. I'm going to be watching like a hawk. Oh, I will say, after that, after the state troopers left, still before I had brushed my teeth, so, you know, a few minutes later I finally get my coffee, get a cup of coffee down, I start walking back through the house, and a Brentwood police officer goes down the street and then turns the corner and goes around my house. So, I don't know, y'all. I mean, am I paranoid, or am I just creeped out, or somebody watching me? You decide. All right, we'll see you later. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.